So recently I was watching one of those videos on YouTube that said I lived for $1 a day for an entire week or something like that. And while watching it, I realized that I was doing this for years back home. But not exactly for $1 though, but for this much. But why not talk about it? If you want to find out how I did it, stick around. It's actually more easier than you think. Norok. This is how you say hi in my language. And for those of you who are for the first time here, my name is Dan, and I'm very glad to have you here. So let's talk about money, but as you saw from the title already, very little money. So for you to understand how I survived, and survived is the perfect word for it, with $100 a month, we need to go back in time a little bit. So I was born in the Republic of Moldova, on the year that the country got back its independence, 1991. And as soon as the country got back its independence, sadly, it stepped on the road to poverty. This is where actually the story begins. As the second wave of globalization was at its peak, and more things were imported at the same price as everywhere else in our country, our economy, although was experiencing a slight growth, it was very much struggling to get back on its feet. The value of exported goods were booming as never before, but money were somehow disappearing. Greedy and freshly elected politicians, and of course thirsty for money, they were doing everything they could so this country keeps its title of the poorest in Europe. And as they were doing so, the luxury cars, owned by the same people by the way, are substantially growing in our country. But anyway, I'm not here to talk about politicians, I just wanted to give you some feedback what was happening. But now let's get into the good stuff. So the rent, I was paying for the rent about 50 euros a month, which is about $55 a month. I know you're now saying it's not expensive, Dan, but it actually was back in the day. On the food I was spending about 1,000 lei a month, which is about $50, was expensive. On the other hand, the public transport was very cheap. So to go with an electric trolley bus in one direction costed 1 lei, which is about 0.05 cents. Very cheap. And if you wanted to go a little bit more fancier, you would pay 3 leis to go one direction with a minibus, or so-called marshrutka or rutiere. These were actually some Mercedes commercial minibuses that they were putting seats in and they were just fitting a bunch of people in. But that was a while ago. Now they have like proper passenger seats minibuses. But that was kind of tough as well, especially during the rush hours. Just imagine that 17 to 20 seat passenger bus filling in with about 40 to 45 people and there is no air to breathe. Well, I think cheap public transport comes at the price. Anyway, public transport would cost you about $12 a month. Now, going out and eating, I was doing it very rarely, about once or twice a month. You would probably spend about $6 to $10, $12 on a good meal and drinks. So let's sum up the restaurants and stuff at about $20 a month. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that this was happening in 2015, and since when the prices went up and the salaries went up. So at the time I was having 1,000 lei salary, which is about $100, and now the prices increased and salaries of course increased as well. It's not 2,000, it's from 5,000 to 7,000. Now in terms of clothes shopping, I wasn't doing it very often either. I was probably buying a pair of jeans and 2 to 3 t-shirts a year, which would come at the cost at about $20 to $25 a year. So there were other expenses actually, like bills and extra cost travels and going out one more than once a month, which I'll probably sum it up at about $60 a month. It was probably a bit more, but let's just keep it at 60. So I added up everything together and it came up at about $221, and those were my expenses back in 2015. So how would you survive with a salary of $100 a month when you actually need 221? Well, you don't. Well, you see, this is where the story actually gets very, very interesting. You see, Moldovan people, they are very, very inventive. They are very, very hardworking. The constant thirst for a better life motivates the shit out of us. You know, there is no such a thing as an anxiety in that country, although it's everywhere, or at least we don't know that it exists. And if there is a problem, well, you need to solve it. And it doesn't matter how you do it. I actually have a friend that at one time he was working at 5 jobs so he can save a little bit of money and take care of his kids or his kids' future. Some extra income as an actor actually usually would be some gigs on the side, like a TV commercial, an extra as an actor. What I would do, like a Santa Claus for Christmas, or I would play some sort of character during the holidays for kids. But the one I liked the most was when we were going to special institutions with kids that had Down syndrome. That was the happiest moments of my life. So yeah, those jobs would usually pay you from 20 euros to 50, which is about $25 to $55 per gig. It was not too bad, huh? So there is a funny story I actually need to share with you. I really want to share with you. It's actually getting very, very, very late and dark outside, but I just want to share it out with you. So this story is the exact representation of how we Moldovans see money. And by any means, I don't want to make fun of this situation or just make jokes towards it. It's just a pure innocent story that really tells you not just Moldovans, but people see money in general. So I remember once going to one of those gigs at a kindergarten that I was having during the holidays, and it was in the middle of the winter, and the night before a huge blizzard hit the city. And I was about 65 centimeters in snow, dragging that red Santa sack full with my Santa prep. And I was like, okay, Dan, you know what? Do it for the kids. Just go there and do it for the kids. Actually, 50 euros ain't that bad either. Imagine in just a few days, warm food and a lot of booze with your friends, getting wasted on New Year's Eve. And 50 euros is everything you need. You know what? That's totally worth it. And I began dragging that sack towards that kindergarten. Anyway, I arrived there, I did a performance about half an hour, and after that they went into a changing room to change. And right behind me there was a woman in about her 40s following me. I entered the room and she entered after me. And just before entering, she looked on both sides of the corridor, probably to see if no one comes in. She closed the door, she came close to me and looking on the side, checking one more time if there's no one else in the room. And in a completely empty room, she said, "This is from us, from our kindergarten, for your work." And meanwhile, And meanwhile, she was pulling a white envelope from her pocket and she gave it to me. She gave it to me this way. Even if there was someone in the room, they won't see it. She was so suspicious, like she was selling some kind of, you understood what. I didn't understand it at the time, but I find it very, very funny right now. This is how we back home treat money. It is everything, especially if you have $100 a month. This is everything to you. Of course, not everyone is like that. This was my lifestyle and a few others, hundred thousands of people. But there were people who were wealthy, who had businesses, and there were kids who were spending a bunch of money that were made with blood and tears in another country. But I wasn't like that. You know what? It's getting very, very dark in here, and I actually told you the story. I really hope that story was funny. It sounds funny to me. Basically, this is how I managed to survive. I was actually pretty shocked when I got my first salary and I saw that I was making a month what I was making in a year back home. Of course, you won't compare this salary and this life expenses here and back home, but anyway, it is crazy. Okay, so that's everything I wanted to share with you, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm just gonna go home because it's very, very dark here, and I'm just going to finish the video back at home. So the conclusion, number one, I am definitely way more lazier than I used to be. Number two, having a goal is crucial for your success, or at least achieving your dreams. The never-ending thirst for a better life eventually led me to one. And I think the third one is mindset. It's everything. If you have a goal, if you have a problem, stay focused on how to solve it. The mindset of a winner and hard work, those are two ingredients to success. And 4, just a random fact, did you know that Moldova is the least visited country in Europe? And you should definitely put it on your travel list for when all this madness is going to finish. The wine we have is just... and it's very cheap at the end of the day as well. So yeah, this is kind of it. This is how I managed to live with $100 salary a month as an actor. And I actually have plenty more stories and things to discuss with you here. And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, just leave a comment down below and I'm just gonna talk with you about it. And if you want to see more of this, well, although I doubt it, but if you want to see it, just go follow me on Instagram. I post some interesting stuff in there as well. Shameless plug. And I would also like to see you on my Patreon, where I upload these videos first before uploading them on YouTube. I also post some behind the scene videos sometimes and more casual vlogs so you can get to know me better and I get to know you better. And of course the most important thing is, if you decide to become my patron, you will help me do this full time. It was a pleasure spending time with you. And as always, I'll see you in a few days.